Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our February episode of Beyond the Exam Room. We are so excited to talk to you this month because not only is it American Heart Month, it is also Black History Month. And so this topic is near and dear to both of us, not only because of what we see in our communities, but because of the larger impact that it has, not only nationwide and worldwide. We know that heart
Yes.
disease is still very high up as one of the top causes of death, both in men and women. So we are excited to bring this chat to you this month. I'm Dr. Emily. I'm a board certified family medicine physician located right here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Emily, for that intro. To our talk this month, I'm Dr. Akita, and I'm board certified in the Atlanta area practicing. So our conversation this morning will be rich.
Yeah, especially when you think about Heart Health Month in the South, and everybody talks about Southern food or soul food. This topic is really pertinent, not just to the community at large, but especially in communities where there's a difference in how we cook, and that's okay. But we're going to
Yes.
talk about how this impacts us during this month. So I'm excited for this topic as well.
Yeah, and about that too, we do have our ways of cooking in the South with the soul food, but especially now with social media and travel, we see this way of cooking as being universal. So no matter where you are in the world, tune in, take notes, and we're going to talk about ways to promote heart health. This isn't just data for us. We often look at statistics as doctors, as primary care physicians. We look at statistics about heart disease, stroke,
Right.
high blood pressure because that is all in Heart Health Month. But this is
Mhm.
personal. We have personal examples in our lives and our families, and then also in
Mhm.
the patients that we serve. So we look forward to a deep dive in.
Yeah, and we're going to look beyond the numbers. It's not just about blood pressure and cholesterol. We're going to talk about real world impact across environments, across class, and across race. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it and see what we're going to do about it.
Yes.
So, what do we see in our practices? This is really like a lived reality, as Dr. Akita already talked about. Heart disease doesn't show up in isolation, and we see this every day. It can show up whether there's burnout, whether there's financial stress, caregivers who
Yes.
come in and they're under strain. Sometimes there's just a really long gap between medical visits.
A lot of times when I'm talking to patients in the office, I'll say, I think you're stressed, but we have really normalized stress because they'll
Yeah.
say, I'm always like this. This is just every day, but it does
Mhm.
not make it right. When we have seen patients normalize feeling tired, being overwhelmed,
Right.
that is putting constant strain on the body, and that stresses the cardiovascular system. It can show up of being on the edge, always feeling like
Mhm.
you're in survival mode. It can show up
Mhm.
as constant fatigue and overwhelm, but that has real strain. It has real implications on the body. Shows up as high blood pressure. It can even show up as high blood sugar, which could lead to diabetes. And
Mhm.
then we often hear, well, it just runs in my family. It's because we are often practicing the same stress. Yeah.
Man, if I had a quarter for every time I heard, oh, it runs in my family, or oh,
Mhm.
this is normal, or oh, this blood pressure of 180 is normal for me. No, no, it really isn't.
And
So
it
there's
wasn't run for, I'm sorry, no, it wasn't normal also for the cousin, the auntie. Yeah.
at
Hmm.
all, at all. And there's also geography, right? Geography
Right.
plays a role, which can be stressful. You have people who are living in newer communities who may be next to, we'll just say, older, more risky communities. And so that provides stress. But then you also have people who are just working a lot and working hard, trying to improve the situation for themselves and their families. And they just can't get off work to go to the doctor. So all of
Right.
that not only increases stress, but it increases your risk of a heart related incident.
That reminds me of when we talk to people who work in real estate and they say location, location, location.
That
Talking
part.
about geography, I had a
Hmm.
conversation this morning with a patient in the office, and we were talking about food deserts. We
Hmm.
see hospitals closing, so that geographical influence can affect access
Yes.
to healthcare. But then there's also the closing of a lot of grocery stores, decreased
Right.
food access. So in that way, geography can be related to heart health.
It sure can. And if you're in a community where on every corner there's a liquor store
Right.
or the gas station that just has snack food, i.e. junk
Right.
food like chips and sweetened foods. And you have to go further to get to a grocery store that has fresh vegetables or a farmer's market, then that
Hmm.
presents a problem because then that's economic stress, right? Where it costs
Right.
more to go to the nice grocery store across town when you can run into, we got QT here. When I was in Virginia, it was Wawa, but when you can run into the QT and just grab a hot dog and some chips and be on your way. So
Right.
geography, the location makes a big difference.
Right. And those are things that are often not put into the equation when we think
That's
about
right.
heart health and we think about total body health.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the issue. So, okay, let's say you do make it to the healthcare system. What
Right.
happens when you don't feel heard in the healthcare system? What happens when you don't feel comfortable or your concerns are not acknowledged? And we
Mm-hmm.
see that we treat, in our offices, communities that may have come to us, may have sought out care because they want somebody who will hear them,
Yeah, no,
who will
that's
listen,
right.
who will not pass over their symptoms, because we all have stories in our families,
Mm-hmm.
where things were overlooked and it
Yep.
led to a bad outcome.
Yes. And as you can see this week, it's blurred. But that gentleman right there was my grandfather, my father's father. And he's one of the reasons I went into medicine. Your story is a big point. Now, granted, he was alive during Jim Crow, but he presented to the emergency room one night in Norfolk, Virginia. He laid on a gurney in the hallway because they did not treat Black patients in a room, and he was there for several hours. The doctor finally comes along and says, "You need to take your blood pressure medicine," and send him home. And he died. My father was 8 years old. So, again, to your point, there's that denial of care, which, the stories are told, hey, don't go here and don't go to this kind of doctor. And that leads to years of mistrust in the health system. And I
Right.
know that's part of why you and I, started these conversations on YouTube and went into medicine, because we're looking to change that.
Oh, yes. 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 Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting, just how close, how recent
Mhm.
that was. And we still see the remnants today. And so this
Absolutely.
conversation is not about blame. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about giving context. It's hard to have a conversation about heart health without giving this historical context. So yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
And we
talked a little
talk a
bit
lot
about
about,
stress. Yep. And
yes,
we've already, listen, both of us trying to talk, but it's good. We've already started the conversation about
right.
stress. So, tell us more. It's not just emotional, it's also physiologic. So,
Yeah.
let's help the people understand.
Yes, I also think about it because we do need stress, right? So if we're being chased, if we're under attack, stress helps our body get to safety. So
Right.
stress is important. That whole stress response, rather, is important. But when we're constantly in a stress response, that's when it can have a toll on the body. When you're
Yeah.
constantly in fight or flight, you constantly feel like
Mhm.
you're being under attack, you constantly feel the worry, the strain, that can have a physiologic response in addition to the emotional response. And
Mhm.
that can show up as high blood pressure over time, as high blood sugar, inflammation, sleep issues, and
Yep.
also it can show up as increased abdominal fat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And all of those things increase your heart disease risk. So I want
Right.
you all to hear us clearly. You're probably wondering, why are they talking so much about stress? It matters, and it increases
Yes.
your risk because your body doesn't distinguish between to your point, when patients say, "Oh, this is my usual stress level," your body
Right.
responds to that. And it doesn't have to be, the big things like, "Oh my gosh, I was in a car accident," or "I just lost a loved one," or "I have a big project coming up at work." It's that daily stress that plays a
Right.
role. And I remind people who are planning weddings, all
Right.
stress isn't bad. There's good stress. Like
Exactly.
planning a wedding for most people is a happy event. That's still stressful. So your
Mhm.
stress and chronic exposure eats away at you a little and a little at a time. And then all of a sudden it shows up and then you have a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, all the things. It was like a few years ago, I was sitting here one day and I was like, I think I'm just treating a whole bunch of stress disorders. You
Well,
know,
it's that
like
way
real talk.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's showing up as high blood pressure. It can even show up
Hmm.
in some as cancer, to be honest. But it's just all these things. And it can take, a strategic plan, it can take time to chip away at it. at the result of these of the chronic micro stressors. Yeah.
The other thing I'll share with patients, because, I feel like a lot of people will say, oh, I write or I do breathing exercises, and those are okay. But I'm
Mm,
like, you still have to get the stress out of your body. So whether that's you go to a gym where you can punch a punching bag, or you're
mm.
going for a walk, or you're exercising, you have to get that stress literally out of your system. So I'll tell people, instead of looking at it as exercise, look at it as I'm taking this 30 minutes to get the stress out of my body.
When you said that, I was thinking that's very important. And it also reminded me of the importance of we say protect your peace. So yes,
Hmm.
get it out and let's reduce the intake to the best of our ability. Like we're all in a world that's going to be the world,
Right,
but doing
right.
what you can in your environment to control the inputs, whether that means turning the TV off or
Yes,
I don't know,
that is so
budgeting so you're
important.
not worried about,
Yes,
whatever it is, but reducing the influence of it.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because what your ear gates and your eye gates take in,
Yes,
to take it to church, it has an effect on
real.
you. If you're watching the news every day, I tell people I can stay current on what's going on without
Yeah,
having to watch MSNBC all day. Like you just
no,
don't
for
have to
real.
do that. So yeah, it's real, how that plays a factor in how you're feeling. So I agree.
Mhm.
2026 is about protecting our peace, y'all. We have to.
Yes,
We have
yes.
to. So let's look at some generational patterns versus changes. I know I've already shared one story about heart disease, on my father's side of the family. It also runs on my mother's side of the family. And I tell people genetics matter. Another question I get asked a lot is, well, why do you want to know, what runs in my family, or my family didn't talk about it? This makes a difference because you grew up, even if it's not a genetic thing, you grew up in that cocoon,
Right.
whatever that cocoon may be. And so that plays a role. So, we talked about my father's side of the family, on my mother's side of the family. My grandfather and my aunt were both alcoholics. My
Mm,
grandfather didn't go to the doctor a lot. He drove a truck. He was a functional alcoholic, wasn't
mm.
feeling well one day. His boss tried to send him home. He's like, no, I'll just rest after I'm done working. He had a heart attack in the truck, and that was it. And
Oh,
then my aunt, who also smoked cigarettes, she was that person, that we talk about in med school, the person who's smoking the cigarettes and got their oxygen on.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised the tank didn't blow up. But one day she was supposed to have quit smoking, couldn't. And she laid down before she had to go to work. Massive heart attack, and she was gone in her sleep. So it's very real to have something like that on both sides of the family. So there's nothing I can do about that
Right.
generational, that genetic part of my makeup. What I can do is make sure that I'm taking care of me and paying attention to my body and my stress and taking my blood pressure medicine. Yes, I'm on blood pressure medicine that I cannot
Mhm.
stand, but I take it every day. So yeah, your genetics plays a role as well.
Yeah, that reminds me of we often quote like genes may play a role like
Hmm.
30%, but lifestyle is 70%. Another way of
Yes.
thinking about that is
Hmm.
genes may load the weapon. Try not to
Right.
use so much violence reference, may
Right.
load the weapon, but the
Hmm.
lifestyle can can activate the weapon or it can
Yes.
deactivate it. Because as
Hmm.
you were talking, I was thinking about, and I'll tell this story. I have a cousin who we were predisposed to diabetes in our family.
Hmm.
And it's appropriate to mention now because diabetes is a risk factor for heart disease. So
Absolutely.
predisposed. So she got a lab result back in pre-diabetic range. So the genetic predisposition, and she got the warning sign. And what
Hmm.
she did was she committed to a walking program. She went walking that day and walked off probably about 100 pounds. And her sugar
Wow.
is still normal 20 years later. So our
Amazing.
lifestyle does play a role. It can
Yes.
deactivate the weapon. It can
Hmm.
change the environment in the body. And so that gene was not fully activated in her case. So lifestyle is important. Things can run the family, but we can change
Hmm.
course with our daily
Yeah,
actions.
that's
Mhm.
right. That's right. I always said, I rebuke all the stuff in my family. I don't have time for none of that stuff.
Right?
Absolutely not.
Mhm.
So, and as Black women practicing in the South, we see this time and time again, and not only in Black populations, but across the board.
Oh
In
yeah.
one population, it may be okay, they may like sweets or whatever. But again, is how do we connect with that patient, with that person to say, okay, this is not a cultural thing. This is
Right.
simply about you being healthy to protect your heart. And that's prevalent, no matter where you are, whether it's north, south, east, or west. The goal
Mhm.
is how do we work with you so that you can stay well and prevent disease? So,
You mentioning the North South, it just kind of reminded me of how, like, when we were learning in school, the Southeast is often called the stroke belt. So here we had
mhm,
geography coming back into this discussion.
that's right.
And so we learn about all the statistics that are worse for people of color as it
Right.
relates to heart health, and then
Yes.
also our geography, how that plays a role. But we
Mm-hmm,
have, you mentioned it earlier, through social media, through YouTube, through
mm-hmm,
information, we can
mm-hmm,
really change the narrative in our population and our
mm-hmm.
families and our communities because we have the information, we have the tools that we need to
Yeah.
maybe change our lifestyle practices to deactivate
Mm-hmm.
those genes and really
Yep.
change our family history.
Yeah. And I love that. That's part of why neither of us, now I'm gonna be transparent with our audience.
Yeah,
Neither of us like this whole social media and doing videos,
you're
but
correct.
we could no longer hold the information, the training that we
Exactly.
have inside because I'm gonna tell y'all, TikTok people are taking over. We hear all this foolishness, and it's like at some point we got convicted. Okay, we have to stand up to show you have two Black female physicians. We have the
Right.
training, we have the credentials, whatever. If you want to see them, go to our websites. But
Yeah.
we needed to share in our communities. We needed to let you all see us bringing you the
Mhm.
information to try to have the truth out there, science
Right.
backed truth, also from a personal perspective, not just our stories, but in our care of patients. Again, we have a combined 40 years
I was
of
going to say
clinical
that. Yeah.
experience. So that was important for us to bring this information, and that's why we're here. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I thank you for saying that because sometimes when I check the labs of people who have followed some trend,
Oh, my
and the
goodness.
A1C goes up, the blood pressure is worse. I'm like, wait, wait, wait. So that is our why. That is why we're
Mhm.
taking these conversations beyond the exam room
Beyond
because we
example.
have these conversations one-on-one with our
Mhm.
patients, but you all
Right.
are part of our community. So we're here for community
Yes.
support, enlightenment, education, all the things.
Yes. Yes. All right. So we didn't get all off topic, but it's all relevant. So, bringing it back around to practical heart health, what
Yes.
actually helps? Heart health isn't perfection, it's consistency. So, again, being consistent, I'll grab the lifestyle thing for now. So, looking at your diet, the one thing I
Mhm.
ask people all the time, okay, is when you're thinking about caffeine, I have to break it down. Okay, we're talking about coffee, tea, and soda. Tell me how much of each thing you're drinking. And it's like, oh, I didn't think about the fact that, my 1 cup of coffee a day, but then I drink tea for the rest of the day. And it's like, yes, these things play a role. So breaking down not only diet, how much salt you're taking in, how much fried foods, we love our fried fish. Oh, it's fried fish Fridays. Oh, I just have fried chicken 3 times a week. I don't eat it every day. All of these things add up. So when you're going to your doctor and they're asking you about your diet, it's not the time to keep things private because there are
Right.
ways that we can help you, So I'll say, okay, if you're going to have your coffee, save your soda for the special occasion. When you go on the date, date night with your
Hmm.
husband, hanging out with the girls, hanging out with
Hmm.
guys, we can talk about taking out things one at a time so that you don't feel like, oh, I'm not allowed to have any fun. It's just a change in the way that you're looking at your lifestyle.
No, I really like that because as you're talking, I keep thinking about the whole turn the genes on off.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
how the genes get turned on and stay
On.
on generation after generation because we
That's
have not
right.
changed the eating pattern.
That's right.
Um, Another thing
Mm-hmm.
that came up too is you mentioned it earlier, decompression. We have to get these
Mm-hmm.
chronic stressors out. Dr.
Yes.
Emily gave some tips, prayer, journaling,
Mm-hmm.
walking, running. We have to get them out of our mind, but then out of our body.
Yes.
Because what entered into the mind now has an effect on the body. So decompression daily. Somebody asked me how you doing earlier. I said, sometimes I take it day by day, sometimes I take it hour by hour. Today was an
Mm-hmm.
hour by hour, so
Yes.
like, minute by minute, it just depends on where I am, but getting everything that did get into the ear and eye gate out. So
Yeah.
decompression. And then I often think about metabolic support. I'm always thinking about
Mhm.
metabolic health. But
Yes.
as it relates to cardiovascular health, we think about the processed foods and how that
Mm-hmm.
affects our vasculature, how that
Mm-hmm.
is shows up as high blood pressure. So Dr.
Right.
Emily talked about decreasing sugar, fried
Mm-hmm.
foods. We want to eat more fiber. We want to eat
Yes.
more whole foods. We don't have to do
Mm-hmm.
whole food 30, whatever the plan is. Just eat some fruits and vegetables.
Right.
Decrease the packaged food intake. And then
Mm-hmm.
movement. A few years ago, it
Mm-hmm.
really started standing out to me. When I look at people in the office, I can tell who moves and who doesn't.
Who doesn't? Yep.
I look at people as they walk through, as they get onto
Yes.
the exam table, but
Mm-hmm.
movement does so much for the cardiovascular health. And it doesn't have to be, exercise or running 3 miles. It can be
Right.
walking more, taking the stairs, doing
Mm-hmm.
some squats, but all movement, especially, we often hear sitting is the new smoking. So many of us
Yes.
now work from home and we're sitting in front of a
Sitting.
screen. We need to get up periodically. I used to give out a handout all the time that says at 9 o'clock, do 10 squats, at 10 o'clock,
Yes.
do some wall
Yes.
push-ups. But if you have the ability to break up your day, especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting all day, get up and
Mm-hmm.
move. In
Yeah.
addition to exercise, all of it counts.
Yep. That's what I tell people. And even though, they say, oh, it's not so much about the 10,000 steps anymore, still, I use that to say, okay, if you're wearing, because a lot of people have an Apple Watch or,
Right,
Galaxy Watch or whatever, if you're looking at your steps and you're not getting at least 10,000, and I tell people that's really just health maintenance. So think
right.
about it. That's your 30 minutes of movement per day. Break it up. To your point, a lot of people are working from home. I tell people do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, 10 minutes when you
Yes.
get off work,
Mhm.
because then it doesn't feel like, oh my God, where am I going to find 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, then you've broken that up during the day. So, and
Hmm.
that is so important. And I'm just put a pin right here because, folk, I don't want to take this medicine. I don't want to take that medicine. Listen, at the point where we are having to even have a discussion about medicine,
Right.
time to take it. The
Yes, it is.
time to add that to what you're doing. Or if you're not doing these things that we're trying to help you for prevention, now is not
Right.
the time to say, oh, well, let me start walking and exercising. Mm-mm. Take the medicine and start exercising, and then we can reassess. So we
No,
got to get
that's
out of
true.
this medicine is bad, science is bad. Mm-mm. No, there's a reason that we're saying it's time for medicine.
Yeah, because we've read the studies, we've done the research, and
Mm-hmm.
we've practiced. And
Mm-hmm.
the sense of urgency comes from if the blood pressure is high, there's already strain on the organs, already
Yes,
strain on the eyes that can show up as vision
absolutely.
loss, kidneys, kidney
Mm-hmm.
disease, strain on the
Mm-hmm.
brain, stroke, heart attack. Like every
Yes,
part of the body is affected by the pressure inside being high.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so another thing, that we have mentioned, but I just want to go back and address it is sleep.
Yeah. Yes.
Sleep is self-care. It is
Yes, it is.
necessary for your body. It is necessary for your mind if you are not getting regular and good sleep. So I'm not talking about I just had a rough week last week and I woke up several times. I mean, people who are chronically sleep deprived, if you are not getting the proper rest, you are already fighting a losing battle. So if you're
Yeah.
not getting rest, I encourage you now, talk to your doctor about that. That is primary. And that doesn't mean getting on a medication for sleep. We're not going to talk
Hmm.
about the sleep medicines, but getting rest is so vital to your overall health and well-being.
Yeah. That's when the body is repairing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, we're talking about a lot of lifestyle things. And something that I think gets overlooked a lot is the impact of community. I remember when the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic first started, we started realizing, oh, loneliness is a risk
Yeah.
factor for health.
Yes.
Um, Community heals, and especially there are studies in communities of color that when we
Mm-hmm.
come together, healing happens. We see this
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes if you go to church, healing happens because you're together, you're on one accord. But wherever
Yeah.
you create your community, there can be healing in that place and healing for the heart. We often hear somebody may have died from a broken heart. That's real. That is
It
real.
is. Mm-hmm.
So Healing happens in community. And so we thank you for being part of our community here at Beyond the Exam Rooms. It helps us connect with you. It helps us sharpen our skills as clinicians. And then it
Mhm.
also helps us uplift the community you're choosing to be a part of with us. So no matter where you're listening from, whether you're in the South, around the world, whether you eat soul food, whether you don't, whether your family history is significant for cardiovascular disease or it's not, we thank you for being part of our community and for joining us today.
Absolutely. And we would be remiss if we didn't, as primary care doctors, to say if you don't have a regular primary care doctor, whether that's an internal medicine doctor or a family physician, we strongly encourage you to get one. The evidence, the research is there to support that you need that person as the quarterback, if you will, for your care. That person who knows you, that person who really takes the time to get your history, that person who can help direct you properly to specialist, that person who can kick your butt if that's what you needed at that
Yes.
time. But having that relationship is so important. It is vital to your health and well being.
Yes. So again, thank you for joining us for this
Yeah.
episode of Beyond the Exam Room as we discussed heart health and things that you can do to improve your heart health. I'm
Mhm.
Dr. Akita. Follow me on social media at Dr. Akita Evans on IG and Facebook. And we have Dr. Emily.
Yeah, so on Facebook and Instagram, I am your friendly neighborhood family dog. Please take a look. Again, we are branching out and just wanting to reach as many people as possible because helping to heal our community and wellness matters. So we hope that you will join us on this journey, even if you have your regular primary care doctor.
Yes, yes. So we're healing one heart at a time, huh?
Yep, yes, we are. And it is Black History Month, so we're honoring resilience. We're choosing
Yes,
longevity, and we hope that you will choose longevity and wellness right along with us.
yes, yes. Take care.
All right, see you guys next time.